The views discussed in this conversation are the views of individuals and not of Arrington Capital. This podcast is provided solely for informational purposes and is not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. The participants of this podcast are not recommending any particular security, protocol, token, financial instrument, or other tradable asset or any investment strategy. It is not offering to sell or soliciting to buy any security or asset.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the PiratePod from Arrington Capital. Excited to have Joseph here from DeFi Development Corp, the original Solana Digital Asset Treasury. We were first introduced to Joseph, Parker, and the team earlier this year, I think dating back to February or March. They formally closed in the April timeframe of 2025, making them really the first non-Bitcoin digital asset treasury. So Joseph is a complete OG on the DAT front. DeFi Dev Corp has been the best performing U.S. stock this year. They have a fantastic team of legacy crypto experts, all around good people who understand both the crypto markets, the crypto community, as well as capital markets. So Joseph, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show. One about when we met, Arrington was our first kind of large yes in our initial fundraise. Y'all were very quick to make a decision. I think Ravi understood the business very well, and it was easy to pitch to
That
him.
aligns with the Arrington team. We see it and we know what we like. That's right. I thought it made sense to kind of start off the chat with, let's go back a little bit. Your original vision, strategy, idea, thought for this space. You know, we knew, and we got it. We were very aligned with you. Do you think that still holds today? Has anything changed since March, April, earlier this year? It's been a wild ride for DATs, but what's the same? What's different?
Yeah. Well, I guess a few of the things are, still the same. So Parker and John and I started working on this business back in January, or the idea for this business back in January. And I think it was something like 85 days or somewhere around there from starting working on the idea to announcement of the change of control transaction with the NASDAQ listed company that's become DeFi Development Corp. And the kind of core items that we saw in the market back in January were, one, the end of choke point 2, and the team here were largely from Kraken, and I was the chief strategy officer for the last 2 or so years, and I was at Kraken for 8.5. And so choke point 2 was very painful for us, as Kraken was like one of the targeted companies here, like many other of the crypto companies in the space. And so with the end of that, one of the implications was, we thought, was the opening of the U.S. public markets to crypto. And of course, in hindsight, this is like obvious, but I was glad we saw it then and tried to capitalize on it. And then second was a number of assets that might have been considered securities in the previous administration would no longer be securities. And Solana was named in the Coinbase complaint with the SEC as a alleged security. And when Parker and I were kind of discussing what the future of crypto, especially in U.S. markets, looks like, kind of one of the natural outcomes was digital asset treasuries for multiple assets. Of course, we were inspired by MicroStrategy, or Strategy now, and we were inspired by Sol Strategies in Canada, which had launched before but hadn't been listed in the U.S. yet. So I think kind of those inputs have held up, of course, and I had no idea when we started on the journey back in January that there would be, I don't know, I think there's like 200 digital asset treasury companies now or coming to market, and we were the first non-Bitcoin DAT to launch, and I'm thrilled with the success of the business and the growth in the space, but I also can't say that I saw it coming.
What do you think about the current environment when it comes to all the DATs and the 200 plus that exist around the world in various jurisdictions? Some jurisdictions I think are further ahead than others in terms of saturation and what they have, but what's your take You've been doing it for probably longer than anyone. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty bullish on digital asset treasuries. So I think the total addressable market for DATs is actually much larger than where we're at today. So and the TAM is probably something like whatever the TAM would be for crypto ETFs globally. And if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably bullish on crypto, and that number probably is very large. So uh, the ETFs are still bigger than the DATs for Bitcoin by a large margin, and so while it does seem like there's like a flood of DATs into the U.S. market, and the assets that are being brought to market as part of a DAT are kind of going further down the uh, coin market cap list. I think this is expected and uh, it should continue. So I think there'll be DATs for, I don't know, maybe the top 100 non-stablecoin, non-security assets in the next, I don't know, say 6 months. I probably said this 2 or 3 months ago too, but I'll extend my timeline a little bit. And I think the assets held by the DATs is just going to increase over time. And I think they're just superior vehicles to ETFs. They make a lot of sense. I mean, you can have uh, you can bring to bear the expertise of a management team in these public companies to earn additional yield on the underlying assets and get, I'd say, very well risk managed, uh, leveraged exposure to the assets. And so, for example, DFDV runs a validator. We stake our balance sheet assets to the validator, and we participate in on-chain yield strategies on Solana.
Is that different or unique than what many of the other Solana DATs are doing? Like, how do you think about sort of being competitive on growing Solana per share and sort of that being part of your approach to accumulating and managing it? What else are you doing differently?
Yeah. So I think ultimately all of the DATs will differentiate or attempt to differentiate on the yield that they can generate on the asset. So the key metric when evaluating a DAT should be its crypto asset per share growth. Maybe one way to think of it is revenue for these businesses, but it's simple to look at it as asset per share growth.
What do you think the timeline will be when you look back historically on like the DATs? Is it like a per quarter? Is it a per day or per week?
Uh, yeah, annual or quarterly, I think is
Okay.
totally fine. It kind of fits with how the public markets look at this stuff. Um, on our website, dfdv.com, we show three trailing 3 months sol per share growth and have many charts and uh, tabs of many metrics, right, where we're trying to convey to investors that the purpose behind this business is Solana accumulation on a per share basis. The intent is to grow sol per share, and I think that's the purpose with all the DATs. And they compete and will ultimately differentiate on the yield they can generate on their balance sheet assets on a per share basis.
You were talking about the TAM of the ETFs versus DATs. What do you think the role of DATs will be? Let's say we're in a world where you think it's 6 months down the road. You've got the top 100 have a DAT, maybe not in every jurisdiction, but maybe in the top jurisdictions or a handful of jurisdictions, depending on the coin, where it's located, all that. What do you think the role of the DATs become?
I think there'll be meaningful ecosystem participants in, at least the kind of winning ones will be meaningful ecosystem participants uh in their token or on their blockchain, right? So DFDV has a liquid stake token, and the LST DFDV Sol was created by Sanctum, Solana project, and we've kind of adopted it. And it's a collateral asset across a wide variety of Solana DeFi projects. And we've got over 10% of the balance sheet now deployed into DFDV Sol. We borrow against it on chain. We run some stake looping strategies. And so we're participating in the ecosystem in a variety of ways. One, we run a validator, so we're helping to secure the network. And then two, we make available DFDV Sol, another LST that hopefully brings some utility into the ecosystem. And then we generate revenue and move around the cost of capital for uh, the rest of Solana DeFi that we hope is, uh, I guess, making the pricing more efficient and lowering cost of capital uh, for some investors or borrowers in the ecosystem. And I think that we will see this take place across a number of other projects, right? I would expect that there would be a hyperliquid DAT that does similar things. I would expect the Ethereum DATs to eventually lean deeper into this. And I think that's how or it's one of the ways that the DATs will compete with each other. Another way they'll compete with each other is on the traditional finance side. So we filed a S1 for a preferred stock offering. I think we filed about a month ago, and we just filed an amendment recently. This is all public. But and today is well, maybe I shouldn't say today if the pod happens later. Um, we also just issued a warrant dividend. So there's going to be a number of, I guess, traditional financial, I don't know, innovations.
Can you unpack
Oh,
both of those for a minute and what that means? Let's say I'm a DFDV holder. What impact does that S1 filing have? And then also talk about the warrant dividend.
sure. Yeah. So on the preferred stocks, the preferred that we filed for looks a lot like MicroStrategy's Strike STRK, which is a perpetual convertible preferred. And it's another way for us to raise capital that is non-dilutive or less dilutive to common shareholders. So we hope it will be extremely accretive on a SOL per share basis for the common stockholders, and we'll be able to use that money we raise from the preferred to buy additional Solana. And the preferred will carry with it monthly dividend payments, and this is all laid out in the filing. The monthly dividend payments will be paid out to the holders of the preferred stock, and uh, we'll probably make those payments from the yield that we generate on our balance sheet assets. So I'm thinking of this preferred as just kind of the first one we do. It's simple, but I want the market to get used to seeing, DATs issue preferred stock and DATs make payments, especially DFDV, make the dividend payments on the preferred stock. And I think maybe we'll, have a higher cost of capital on this initial preferred raise, but the sooner we get it out there, the sooner we lower our cost of capital on future preferreds. And the way preferred stock kind of works is a company can issue an instrument that represents, within some bounds, whatever your lawyers or our lawyers can draft into the S1 and that the SEC will, review and approve. So we could theoretically issue preferreds that pass on, say, staking yield from Solana. In other words, we could do, I don't know, a Solana denominated preferred instrument, for example. Or we could take like a vault product from, Camino or uh, another DeFi project, Drift Vault, say, and we could wrap it in a preferred stock and issue it, make it available to be traded on the Nasdaq, and then investors could trade it inside their brokerage accounts. And I think this will be another kind of trend in digital asset treasuries. Maybe it's a little early for this, but I think as the DATs grow and their cost of capital decreases, this is going to be very interesting. And I anticipate in, I don't know, say the next 2 years, there's going to be hundreds of preferred stock offerings that bridge traditional finance and decentralized finance in kind of some of the examples that I laid out.
Who else is doing sort of that bridge right now? Who's at the forefront besides DFDV when it comes to the blending, if you will, of traditional and DeFi?
We're first.
Are there
Yeah.
any other DATs that are interesting to you? You've seen them all. You're obviously paying close attention. Anything else that's interesting?
I guess we're occasionally inspired by, of course, MicroStrategy and their preferred stock issuance, right? Like we're kind of following in the footsteps of Michael Saylor here, so I have to give him a lot of credit. Um, and I mean, we pay a lot of attention to the filings that are put out by the other DATs. We also try to stay networked with the other DATs and just kind of keep up with whatever they're working on. Um, yeah, it's mostly MicroStrategy that we are kind of primarily inspired by, but we're kind of always talking to the others and trying to stay up to date and look for interesting opportunities to explore something that somebody else is working on.
Are you still happy that you are a Solana DAT instead of a Bitcoin or an ETH or anything else? We talked about Solana a little bit.
Yeah. I'm a Solana bull for quite a while now. I started participating in the Solana ecosystem back in mid 21, and Parker, who we've mentioned a couple of times here, the COO and Chief Investment Officer at DeFi Dev Corp, has been running as validator for over 2 years now, and also participating in Solana DeFi since mid 21. So, say we have high conviction on Solana. There's also um, a number of new projects launching there that I've been excited to learn more about. Um, and in DeFi and in kind of the RWA space that are sort of touching on DeFi. So, yeah, I'm say I'm pretty bullish on Solana. We've got a research piece that we're working on to
Awesome.
that argues that um, virtually all value transfer in the future ought to take place on a blockchain. And I think if costs are low enough for those transactions to take place on a blockchain, then they should. And we make the case that Solana is the winning project where uh, most of the future world's value transfer as the chain continues to scale could or should happen on Solana. And of course, we've got a price target for Solana associated with that. Um, the price target is $10,000. And we back into that from uh, a calculation of the total value transfer and kind of a piece of it going to the chain.
Are you doing that independently? Or are you collaborating with anyone on that research?
No, we're working on it internally. Our team is pretty set for this. I mean, we got uh, Jeffrey's bank analyst on the team, right, and a couple of the other team members are from the buy side. So they've done a lot of work on this kind of thing in the past. I think it's a strong suit that we have internally.
I love this. So we've got the best performing stock in the US this year, having a price target of $10,000 for Solana. I won't ask you if you're going to be the best performing stock next year, but we'll leave it
Thank
at
you.
that. Those are some good facts. How do you think, real quick on the Solana ecosystem, just a few more things, like how do you think the DAT environment, because Solana's been there've been a lot of Solana digital asset treasury strategies in a couple different jurisdictions. How do you think that's impacted overall the Solana ecosystem? Is that kind of included in your research report, both when it comes to those projects that you were mentioning that you're excited about and also the overall tokenomics?
Uh, no, I don't think that we have included DATs in part of the research report as like a major impact for the price. I think in the shorter term, it has had a price when some of the other DATs were coming to market. Solana was going up certainly. It's been down a bit since. I think it's early for uh basically all the DATs where a lot of these companies haven't reached their like share unlock yet, where the registration of the initial pipe hasn't even happened yet, and then, well, I guess a couple of them anyway, and then they haven't gone through like a completed quarterly filing with the new uh, treasury policies.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's a big lift. And then, so I think these teams just have to kind of get their footing first before they kind of start doing stuff. So um, I think we haven't seen kind of uh, the impact that these companies are going to bring to the market yet fully. So I'd give it a few more months. I'd like to answer that question again in a couple of months.
Do you think the next big milestones for Solana are? I know Breakpoint's coming up in December, and you're probably paying a very close attention to what else is going on in that ecosystem. What do you think the next big milestones or bits of news we hear out of the Solana ecosystem are?
Yeah, I think that I I guess I'm kind of changing my view on this. I think there is kind of real institutional adoption happening on Solana. So you asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said, well, I guess we're an institution and we're adopting Solana. But the investor bases, I think, in these DATs are changing a bit, and I think some of the bigger institutional kind of long-term holding funds are getting more and more interested in the space. And I think, of course, the myriad of ETFs are kind of on the way. I think there's probably going to be staked assets in the ETFs as well.
What's the big thing that kind of takes off on Solana next?
The resurrection of memes. There's going to be another meme cycle, and I'm very excited about it.
All right, you heard it here. What's the next big partnerships or news or collaborations from DFDV outside this research paper, which we're excited to see?
Yeah. So I can only talk about what we've already put out there. A couple of the ones that we're excited about. We have a program that we call DFDV Treasury Accelerator, where we facilitate the launch of DATs focused on Solana projects and other geographies. And we've announced a partnership to do this in Japan, and we've also announced one in Korea more recently with the Fragmetric team. So we're pretty excited about those. Um, but they're not in market yet, but uh, I'm excited about the potential. And
Why those jurisdictions in particular?
Japan, because we were kind of inspired by the success of Metaplanet. I guess that's kind of come off now, but that was one of the inspirations. I also think uh, investors in Japan have it's like a tax advantage essentially to investing in domestic companies relative to investing in crypto. And the Korean market, we see, of course, there's historically a great deal of demand for crypto out of the Korean market. Maybe you're familiar with the phrase "the kimchi premium," where typically or often particular crypto assets trade at a premium on the Korean markets relative to the other markets. Tom Lee also said recently that Bitminer was the most traded stock in Korea. So I think there's a lot of demand there for a treasury vehicle. And we also had a great relationship with the Fragmetric team, and Parker spent a lot of time with them. So we were excited about being able to do something with them.
And then is there anything specific that you have to do to balance the DFDV and then some of these other initiatives you have going on with sort of the overall Solana network? Like, are there any risks that you found that you didn't foresee back in January, February, March when you were talking about this and getting this going?
Well, we knew that when we were getting in. So part of the kind of purpose of the company is to give investors exposure to the price of Solana, right? So yeah, it's a volatile instrument, and the stock is hopefully more volatile than the underlying asset because uh, the company essentially represents leveraged Sol, hopefully safely leveraged Sol. Um, but I don't know. I'd worked in the crypto space for a long time and feel like I understood most of the risks pretty well. There's volatility, and of course, we're worried about uh, security and custody and um, I don't know, but I'd worked at exchanges for 13 years, I guess. So felt like I had a pretty good handle on, uh, what it might take to work in the space. Yeah.
We're sitting here on October 24th. I'll probably get this out by Monday, so we're coming to the end of October. When's the next big DFDV update? I know you've got the real-time metrics, but what's next?
Yeah. And we've got a few kind of initiatives going. We're hosting a Solana Investor Day that we're calling Solid in, I think it's November 5th in New York. Um, so that's kind of we're pretty focused on that. I'd say that's one thing that's out there already. And of course, we're working hard on the Treasury Accelerator businesses that I mentioned already. But we don't have a launch timeline that I can share yet. But we're definitely putting the work in on our side to get there.
A lot going on. This has been super helpful. Joseph, thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing all the news and updates on DFDV, and we'll be keeping an eye for your research report and upcoming Investor Day.
Cool. All right, Kelly, thanks for having me on here.